All right, welcome everybody to the Monday, February 27th meeting of SIG Service Catalog. So today we have a pretty full agenda. I'm going to start off by just giving the status of MVP 1. So we're fairly close to meeting MVP 1. The gaps are that Michael Kibe has run into some problems with getting his Jenkins instance to play nice with GitHub, and we lack some of the tests that we wanted. So Jeff has had a pull request merge that adds a unit test for the informer-based controller, and that's good as a start. But we need to complete the unit tests and get the integration tests for the controller and EDEs going. Morgan found an issue with the EDE framework from upstream that makes it so that we will not be able to pull that code in until after we update Kubernetes, which we can talk about later since I see there's an agenda item for this. But functionally, we're at, you can add a broker, it gets the catalog, the controller picks that event up, gets the catalog from the broker, puts service classes into the API server, you can make an instance, and controller picks that up and does provision. You can make a binding, controller picks that up, does a bind. Kent has a pull request in progress that adds deprovision and unbind to that. So we're very close functionally. And then Aaron has done a large chunk of the work to make the API server work with third-party resource as a backend, which is pretty awesome and also a thing no one, to my knowledge, has done before ever. So that is also pretty cool. So any questions on that before I do a demo? Really, no questions? None. All right.
We're all waiting for the demo.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, let me try to share my screen. Okay, can folks see my terminal window?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to make the font a little bigger on this because I found the last time I recorded a demo, it was a little tough to see. So I am running a local Kubernetes cluster, and I have I have our API server and controller manager deployed as pods in that cluster. The API server pod has the API server and etcd in two different containers. And I've also got this UPS broker. UPS is user provided service. And I made a couple little changes to that to get around the fact that when I was getting this stuff to work, we didn't have parameters integrated. So the change that I made to this is that UPS broker used to expect you to give it a parameter on provision for the credentials you wanted to get back on bind. And now if you don't post any, it just makes some up. So let's take a look. You can see here that I don't have any brokers, nothing up my sleeve. By the way, what I'm doing for this now is that in my service catalog directory, I have a kube config that points to our API server running in my local cluster. And I'm switching between Kubernetes in this pane here and service catalog in this pane here. So when I use run kubectl with my K alias, it's against Kubernetes. And when I run it here, it's against service catalog API server. So I am going to create a broker. And if we take a look at this, you'll see that it points to the cluster local DNS name of the service that fronts this UPS broker pod. So if I go and I get that broker, I should be able to see, all right, perfect. So check this out. It's got a ready condition on it that says true, it's ready. It successfully fetched the catalog from that broker. So if I get the service classes, we should be able to see, bingo, there we go. User provided service is in there. So let's take a look at that thing. And we can see it's got one plan called default that is free. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create an instance of this. So let's take a look at that really quick. So this instance is created in namespace test.ns. Its name is UPS instance, and it points to service class user provided service with plan name default. And if I get this instance, the controller's already picked up this event for the instance having been added and talked to the broker and said, go ahead and provision a new copy of this instance. So if I get, oh, never mind. So you can see we've got a ready condition on here with the true status. That's good. That means I should be able to create a binding against it. So let's check out this binding. Its name is UPS binding. It's in namespace test.ns. It's against UPS instance in this namespace. And it says to put the credentials into a secret named mySecret. So let's see if controller has picked this up yet. All right, great. You can see the status has a ready condition that's set to true. And it's already injected the binding result into the namespace. So if I do get secrets, bam, we can see we've got a secret called mySecret in namespace test.ns. And this just has like the default credentials that UPS Burger will give you back if you don't give it anything, which are just like special key 1 and special key 2. So let's see. All right, so we can see special key 1, special key 2. And the keys are just special value 1, special value 2. So that's the demo. Any questions on that?
Hey, Paul, with that PR that I opened up today, we should be able to add back in the testing of the API server.
Okay.
To add the controller into that, do we have to have a Kubernetes cluster running, or can the controller just talk to the etcd and not a full-blown Kubernetes?
So the controller right now expects to use an in-cluster config, which means that it's going to look for the service account token.
Okay.
You could make it run outside a cluster by putting something in there, but it's really, the controller expects to run in a cluster right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I thought. Okay, thanks.
So hopefully next week we can do a demo and show deprovision or unbind and deprovision working. I think Kent is very close to that. And since he's at an appointment right now, he can't attest to that, but I think he's on the cusp of having that PR be mergeable. I think it just needs some unit tests. So that's what I have got for that. I'll just take a chance to say now, like what we, actually no, I'll leave this for later because I've got another agenda item on it. So Doug, next up is you with Power Z.
Yeah, so this is very quick. Just want to let you guys know that we did talk about this briefly through some other PRs and issues and stuff, but IBM does have a requirement to build Kubernetes on Power System and Z systems. We actually do build Kubernetes today, so obviously service catalog is going to be a key part of that as well. So nothing needs to necessarily change as of right now. I think we're okay, but just keep in mind that you may see PRs in the future that might tweak the make files or something just to make building a little bit easier for those systems, or if something gets introduced, they need to tweak it slightly to make sure we can still build on Power and Z, obviously without breaking current x86 stuff. So just a heads up, nothing big.
All right. So next up is Aaron with TPR backend status and a demo.
Cool. Thanks, Paul. All right, I'm going to go and share my screen here. Alrighty. Can everybody see this? Can anybody not see this?
Yeah, can you make it a little bigger for us old men?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I've got two terminal windows here, similar to what Paul did. This terminal window is the regular old kubectl configured to talk to the core. And this one I'll make bigger. This is kubeconfig configured to talk to our API server. So if we first go and look at the pod, I'm going to show that this pod is not using etcd. It's just running the API server only. And I've started this pod, obviously, and it's created a broker third-party resource. Now, generally, when this pod runs, it'll create all four of our resources, but to make things simpler, since I'm just showing broker, I have deleted all the other third-party resources to avoid a little bit of confusion here. So I'm going to switch over to the other API window here. And again, this is the one configured to talk to our service catalog API. I'll show you what I'm about to create. Pretty simple. This is the broker that's just taken from our contrib examples folder. And now I have a kubectl in this directory, which is the 160 alpha. This is necessary right now to negotiate versions, API versions. So after 1.6 is released, we're not going to have to use the alpha. It'll just be the up-to-date kubectl. So I'm going to create here. Do -f. So we've created the broker now. Now I'm going to get the broker here. And I'll print it out as YAML. Oh boy, talking and typing, not the best for me. So we've created the broker on our API server. We're getting back the YAML here. It just adds all the regular metadata that we expect any API server to create. Now, to prove that it's a third-party resource, I'll go back over to the core API server's kubectl, and I'm going to get the broker here, print it out as YAML, just as we always do. And now you can see that the core API server has a third-party resource that looks exactly like what our API server returns. So that's the C in CRUD. We've created one now. And as I showed already, we can get the list. And now we can get the broker itself and print it out as YAML, as I already showed. So we've got create and read here. I'm going to elide update for now. It's possible, but it takes a little bit longer to show. And then I'll skip to the final step here is delete. So we deleted our test broker here just to prove that it's been deleted. We can get the broker. And again, this is the operation on our API server. And then to prove that it's been deleted, I'll go back over to the core API server here. I will try to get it, and no broker exists anymore. So this is as far as the third-party resource support is gotten. There is a pull request number, let's see, number 410, which is going to implement the last piece of TPR, and that is for watch and watch list, the two functionalities that are the final two functionalities that are required to get the controller to work with this. So currently, if you boot up an API server in TPR mode, it will panic on a nil pointer exception because this pull request for TPR based watch and watch list is not in yet. So once this in progress PR is finished and merged, you'll see that controller with TPR backed API server works just the same as controller with etcd backed API server. So that is it for the TPR based demo. So I'd love to hear questions if anybody has them.
My only question is wondering whether you had a chance to dig into watch at all.
Yeah. So like I said, watch currently has a nil pointer panic. The reason for that is the data that comes back from a TPR watch on the back end is not the same data that the API server, that the controller expects from our API server. And the conversion code between the two, basically it just doesn't work. So it expects an object meta to be there when it's not always there. So I have to add code to negotiate the object that comes back, which is basically a raw unstructured. I have to negotiate that object back into a service catalog v1 alpha 1 object. So that we send it back down.
And you can't just deserialize from the raw unstructured?
Deserialize works for, it's a little more complicated than that. I'll leave it at that. And we can talk offline.
All right, cool. Okay, any other questions? All right, cool. So next up on the agenda is just tactical. What are we going to do this week? And I will share my screen here and just bring up our gaps document. Okay. Can folks see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So the status sub-resources for instance and binding are done. Integration tests for the API server and sub-resources are done. Placeholder gaps for CLI experience, I think we can count this one as done because feature freeze for 1.6 is today. And that's all right because we still have an okay CLI experience, even if we don't have describe and list showing certain fields. I think it's fine. Parameter support in the API, VLA has this in progress. I've transplanted much of the old behavior or the old behavior for add a broker, provision and bind. Kent has unbind and deprovision. And I have him and Aaron next to update broker and delete broker. Actually, Kent's already got delete broker in process. So Kent appears to have all of this stuff. Integration test for the controller. I had Morgan's name next to this and Jeff has also been working on unit tests. So we can, I will go back through and split out unit tests into their own bullet later on, but those appear to have coverage. So EDE pattern and infrastructure is Kibbles and myself, and Kibbles has run into some trouble getting his Jenkins instance to work correctly with GitHub. So that might not make it. That is what it is, but I'm going to say a few words to make everybody feel better about this for good reason after I finish going through this list. So TPR storage for backend, for API server backend. Aaron obviously has this pretty well in hand. CI/CD. it looks like that's at risk. And then placeholder for API aggregation is still TBD. I hope to get to that this week. I don't think I'm going to get to that in the next couple of days. So that one is at risk. But here's the thing, is that we've come very close. And I think that we'll probably be at a place where we'll have unit coverage, perhaps not integration test coverage of the controller behaviors, but very close. What I would like to do and discuss, probably not now, since I would rather, if we're ready to wrap this up before the end of the hour, I'd rather use the time to continue working on MVP1. What I would like to do is have for perhaps 2 weeks from now a MVP2 milestone that is about cleanups and improving testability and getting CI and CD in there. So I would like to round off any rough edges in that MVP milestone, the next MVP milestone, and make it so that when we show this at Kubecon in the end of March, that we have something that we will feel good to show people from a code and testing standpoint. How does that sound to folks?
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Okay. So next up, Simon, you put upgrading our cube onto this agenda. You have the floor.
Yeah, I want to bring this up just to see what everybody has to say, rebasing our service catalog with the newest kube. And the reason of that is because right now we're able to generate the open API extension to our definition, but we're not serving it. And the reason we're not serving it because we cannot get it into the open API common config. The new API machinery is back to map, but we write to a struct. So in order to unblock that, we're going to have to rebase. And seems like that's an issue already filed, and I know, Paul, you volunteer to do that. But I'm just wondering if I'm blocked right now, and if I want to get into this, is it a crazy idea? I know there's going to be like a good amount of work involving this. So what do you guys think?
So my stance is that you're welcome to try, but here's what's probably going to happen is it's going to be not only a ton of work, but it relies on being very familiar with the API machinery. So I don't think it's going to be a great use of time unless you're intimately familiar with that machinery. And since others in the group have borne the burden of learning that machinery, and it proved to be difficult and extremely time consuming, I think it probably makes the most sense for me to personally do that. And I have the luxury of sitting very close to some of the folks that are very knowledgeable about that machinery. So I will be able to get them to help me in the event that I get blocked on it. I have some prior experience rebasing code bases onto Kubernetes, and it's not for the faint of heart. So what I would say, Simon, is I appreciate your enthusiasm. I would rather look for things that you can do that are smaller chunks to bite off and that are going to be more easily actionable. Just from a standpoint of like realistically, it's extremely difficult, and it's easiest when you have someone that you can sit next to that's knowledgeable about it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That sounds good.
Okay.
Simon, are you just generally looking for work to do?
No, I'm trying to get the kubectl experience better, and I'm being blocked on this. So the kubectl code is ready, but then our server-side code is not. But that can wait. And yeah, I'll take up Paul's advice.
Okay, so like I said, I'd really like to get to that this week, and I would say that a rebase onto Kubernetes like 1.6 candidate would be something that I wanted to do as definitely as a part of MVP 2. So know that it's on my list, and I don't want to make anybody else do it because it will probably be painful. And I've also spent some time looking at what's been done, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of what I'll need to do. So I've been kind of accumulating a list of notes. And Simon, if you're looking for something else to do, we can talk offline about outstanding tasks you can help with.
Yeah, Paul, can you paste a link to your burn down list into the chat room? I can never seem to find that doc whenever I need it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you much.
So
do we have a bug that tracks this, and maybe link it off of that?
Yeah, I've made an issue for rebasing. So one thing I want to ask folks is like if you are working on something that is related to MVP, I'd like it if everybody can be like all hands on deck for this stuff this week and for the next couple of weeks. This is a really critical time to get things finished up and get them into a state that we're going to feel happy with being showed at Kubecon. So if you're one of the folks whose name was mentioned going down the burn down list and you have to switch off to another project or be out for several days, I would sincerely appreciate it if you could let me know or send an email to the mailing list or put a note in the Slack channel. And if you know you're going to be out, please don't pick up new work.
On the other side of the coin, if you do have cycles and you are available, please let one of us know because there's certainly no shortage of work to get done by Kubecon.
So what's the best mechanism then? Is it just ping in and list, or is there issues that one can grab? Or I mean, it seems like ping in a list and asking somebody for work is probably not. I mean, if that's what it is, that's fine. But it seems like
let's call it ping for the rest of the afternoon, and then tomorrow morning I will make sure that everything in that burn down chart has a specific issue associated with it and has an owner.
Okay.
All right. So that's all I've got for now. Anybody have anything else? And we can get half an hour back.
So Paul, if you have that list of notes somewhere, can you link to it from issue 413?
It's in my brain right now.
Okay.
But I will start, probably take some moments in the next day and start writing it out.
Okay.
All right, great. Well, thanks everybody. And sorry, someone wants to say something.
Yeah, the last agenda item talks about a face-to-face at Kubecon. Do we want to try to do that?
I'm sorry, my bad. So face-to-face at Kubecon. I'm going to be there, I'll be getting in at 7 in the morning on Monday. I'd love to do a face-to-face, especially for folks that might have been following the work in the community that haven't had a chance to go to the last Kubecon. I'm speaking 3 days out of that week, so there's just about no time that will be excellent for me. So whatever works best for other people, I can make work if folks have opinions on days. I tell you what, Vile, did you put the face-to-face on the agenda?
a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
or whatever it was, I was curious if there was going to be one, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to do it during or in the evening or whatever. I know you have some travel constraints and the later on the week.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if anybody's coming in.
I tell you what, Vilay, will you take as a takeaway to make like a doodle and send it to the mailing list so we can figure out when is best for people to meet?
Yes, it's my first doodle. I am so
right.
excited.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Anything else that I didn't skip? All right. Awesome. Well, you can all have 27 minutes back. Thanks for joining.
See ya.
See ya.